At some point in a man's life, he begins asking himself the question, why am I here? You know, in a man's quest to discover the purpose and answer the question, why am I here? Listen, this is part of every man's masculine journey. And you have to know that every question that you're willing to ask has an answer. You see, one of the 8 key areas that every modern man must master is the concept of spiritual connection and purpose. And you'll hear me say that, and you'll say, Mark, that's 2, spiritual connection and purpose. Well, it's not. And that's what this video is all about, understanding that they truly are one thing. In this video, I'm going to discuss with you 3 ideas that can help you awaken your God connection and have you taking a step towards discovering more purpose in your life. Because, you know, you don't have to read very much into the Bible to see the whole concept of purposeless wanderers, right? I mean, look around our world today. This has been happening forever. You know, there are lots of men who are searching for more purpose, and that's what this video is all about. So if you feel absolutely purposeless right now, you're in the right place, and now is the right time. Stick around for the next few minutes. We are going to talk about, again, awakening your God connection and understanding how it is, you know, the whole concept behind finding more purpose in your life. Plus, I'm going to give you 3 ideas that can help you step into discovering that purpose. So here we go. The best and most powerful you begins right on the other side of this video. You ought to watch it. So if we haven't met yet, let me introduce myself. My name is Mark Mascola. I want to welcome you to Masculine to the Core and the Man in the Arena podcast. You know, there are lots of talk in the media today about the word revival. Masculine to the Core is a revival. If you look at the word revival, divided into 3 parts, R-E-V-E-A-L-L. This is the great awakening of God's men to their true identity and purpose. This is video number 5 in our series titled A Man's 5 Commitments. I'll roll through them really, really quickly because I want to be passionate and purposeful about what we're doing in today's video. So here are a man's 5 commitments. Be willing to do more, to become more, to have more. And today's video is all about serving more. So, all right, so back in 1999, I was a guy that ended up in an alcohol and drug rehab center. You know, my life was a mess. And I got out of that place and I was looking for more purpose in my life. I was looking to discover, I just couldn't live the way I was living anymore. And I became a consumer of information, an avid reader. You know, those of you that follow what we do here at Masculine to the Core, you understand I'm purposeful and I love, you know, creating videos and writing books and men's retreats and workshops and all those kind of things. But this began for me by being an avid consumer of information. So one of the things that I found was I read a book in the year 2000 called The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. And so I'm not going to tell you today that finding more purpose in your life is all about thinking positively. There's nothing farther from the truth. But Norman Vincent Peale dedicated that book to his 2 brothers who he called effective helpers of mankind. I mean, think about that right there. If the phrase effective helpers of mankind. You know, in my Bible reading, I'm going back through the Bible again, and yesterday I came across in Exodus where God was talking to Moses through the burning bush. And what you have to understand is that, men, we are going through life with blinders on. There are burning bushes and God's messages are everywhere. We just have to take the blinders off. We are so committed and addicted to busyness and chaos. And, you know, when you hear me talk about, you know, the enemy's number 1 tool is to divide and conquer, the whole separation of a man and God is all about the enemy dividing you from God, separating you from God. But you have to understand that separation is always because of us, and that we get so caught up in our busyness and our addiction to chaos that chaos and confusion can cause the separation. So I told you I was going to give you 3 ideas. Here's idea number 1. Your higher power created you with and for a purpose. You know, I love to talk about the spiritual principle of optimism. You know, optimism is not about being a glass half full, glass half empty guy. It's about understanding that in God's world of unlimited potential, there are multiple glasses, and the glasses are always refillable, right? When you look at your higher power created you in the image and the likeness of itself, and it created you with and for a purpose. So what is that purpose? Idea number 1 is to understand that you're always, regardless of the chaos and confusion in our lives, you're always being led towards a higher good. You know, this is a process. It's a progressive idea. You'll be a little bit better at it tomorrow than you are today. And your purpose, I can tell you from experience, your purpose will have pivot points and course adjustments that you have to make along the way. But you have to understand, your purpose grows as you do. And understand that idea number 1 is that your higher power created you with and for a purpose. So idea number 2, your purpose, your number 1 purpose in life. And obviously idea number 1 is huge, but idea number 2 is probably the biggest thing in discovering and awakening more purpose in your life, is understand that your number 1 purpose is to live a life that honors God. You know, in the Bible, God says several times, "This is my son in whom I am well pleased." Does he say that about you? I'm going to ask that again. Does God say that about you? This is my son in whom I am well pleased. Am I well pleased? Is he well pleased in the way you conduct your marriage, your fatherhood, your physical health, your finances? Think about that. This is my son in whom I am well pleased. So remember, your number 1 purpose is to live a life that honors God, and understand that you are here for his pleasure. And that pleasure is to honor him in everything you do. Again, marriage, fatherhood, finances, physical health. And that's idea number 2, that your number 1 purpose is to live a life that honors God. And that brings us to idea number 3. Your purpose on this earth in some shape, form, or fashion is always connected to service to others. Now listen, that doesn't mean you have to do what I do and write a book and host a podcast and shoot videos like this to be of service to others. Keep in discovering more purpose in your life, keep it super simple. What I like to tell guys to do is be an example of God working in, with, for, and most importantly through you. You know, I just spoke about idea number 2, live a life that honors God. And idea number 3 is to understand that that's about service to others. But if you want to keep it simple, in that this is my son in whom I am well pleased, ask yourself the question, will your wife say, this is my husband in whom I am well pleased? Will your sons and your daughters say, this is my father in whom I am well pleased? Will the group of men that you surround yourself with say, this is a friend of mine, this is a man of impact, this is a man that I want to spend more time around, and is he a guy in whom I am well pleased? As an employer, an employee, you know, does your boss say, this isn't my employee in whom I am well pleased? Do your employees say, this is my employer in whom I am well pleased? So service to others doesn't have to be about taking off and doing mission work. Now, I'm not telling you what to do or not to do. You don't have to. Keep it simple. Understand, service to others, be an example of God working in, with, for, and most importantly, through you. Those are the 3. And I'm going to give you one more, a bonus idea, number 4. At some point, you will know that you're being called to do something that outlives you. I talk about being a man of impact in our home and in our community. Be a man who your legacy and who you are in and with your higher power, your divine relationship with God. Be a man who leaves a lasting impact on this world. You know, one of my favorite movies is the movie Gladiator, and when Maximus is riding into battle, he reminds his men, what you do in this life echoes in eternity. Ask yourself the question: Are you a man who will, at some point, know that you're called to do something that outlives you? But most importantly, will you do it? Will you put yourself and understand your purpose is to live a life that honors God? Understand there is a higher power that created you with and for a purpose. You weren't put here by mistake. And so that's bonus idea number 4. You're going to be called to be a man of impact. Why not start today? So we want to invite you to step into the arena. If you're looking for a group of men to hang out with, we want to invite you to step in. Be sure and subscribe and check out the next video. We've got lots of really empowering stuff. So in closing today, I want to tell you, go out and be the best and most powerful version of yourself. You know, the man God created you to be and to become. That's it for this video. We'll see you on the next video.